It's time to take command with former NFL tight end Logan Paulsen and former Commanders beat reporter Craig Hoffman.
Take Command podcast from Odyssey Sports. I am Craig Hoffman. He is Logan Paulsen. All right, this is a fun one. Running backs across the division, because you got some really, really good ones in all four spots. I don't know what to do with Dallas with Tony Pollard. Do we just assume he's going to be healthy? Do we
I
just
guess
go
so.
with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
For the purpose of this rankings, we're assuming a healthy Tony Pollard. So they obviously lose Zeke. They got Tony Pollard, Malik Davis, Ronald Jones, who they bring in from Tampa, and then Deuce Vaughn, who they drafted. That's their running back group. We have obviously Robinson, Gibson, Rodriguez here. They've got Matt Breida to back up Saquon in New York. And then Philly, the way ESPN's listening on their depth chart, they got DeAndre Swift as the starter, but it'll be Swift and Penny, and they still got Kenneth Gainwell and Boston Scott on the roster as well.
Yeah.
Go ahead and get started, because I honestly don't know. It just feels like four really good rooms, and I don't really know how to rank them. Like someone's going to be very disappointed to be last here.
I mean, for me, it's like the best group in the division is Washington, in my opinion. Like if I'm starting a team, that's what I want. I want a very consistent kind of every down back in Brian Robinson who can run between the tackles, has explosive ability, enough explosive ability to keep you honest. His vision's off the chart. He elevates the offensive line in a way that I don't think a lot of other backs in the division do. That's not a knock on them. I think his vision is just like an elite trait for him. And then to have the explosive playmaking ability of Gibson, which we haven't really seen here, but I think with Bieniemy, I'm kind of betting that we do see that. And I think the depth piece of Christian Rodriguez is going to be, or Chris Rodriguez, excuse me, is going to be very, very nice. And I don't really think, Patterson's here. They've got some good pieces in terms of depth. And I just think
Williams.
Williams. Thank you.
I mean, all those guys. So, someone is going to be on the practice squad that's a NFL quality fourth.
I think so, and I think that when I look at that, I'm like, man, that's the group I want. Like when I look at Philly, for example, I think what they're banking on is that they have the best offensive line in football, and I think they might have even gotten better this offseason with the draft, which is crazy to think about. But I think they're a very, very, very good group, and I think Rashard Penny had the highest yards per carry last year when he was playing, but is also one of the most injury-prone players in all of football, right? And then Gainwell is a converted receiver, much like Gibson, very good football player, but I definitely think those guys are elevated by running behind like one of the best the best offensive line since that Dallas team back in what was that, 2013, 14, whatever that was. So that's kind of the group that they're running behind. And I think you see good production from this group, kind of who depending on who's blocking in front of them. And I'd say New York would probably be my number two because Saquon's there, but I just don't know if they have the depth that this room has here in Washington. And while Saquon, his ceiling's very high, you need a couple good running backs in the NFL. That's just how the position's going. So I think the group that I'm probably least excited about is Dallas. I think Pollard, everyone's excited about him getting more touches. For me, I think one of the reasons he was successful is because he wasn't taking all these touches. And now that he's going to be getting a lot of touches, I think he's going to be much less effective on a down-to-down basis. So I think they need to think about some depth there. I think he's a very good player. But, that's kind of my high-level thoughts on the division at running back. And I just think, to me, it's like we have the deepest group. We have two guys with a ton of upside, ton of talent that have played good football in the NFL. And I know there's some talks about Gibson not being the most efficient runner, and I get that, but I do think his usage pattern is going to be much more diverse and speak to his skill set in a way that we haven't seen in the last 3 years since he's been here.
Yeah, for being inefficient, he's been hella productive. He still was a 1,000-yard rusher a couple of years ago. What are we talking about with him? So, I think people get way too caught up sometimes in some of that stuff. And I also, the coaching of Bieniemy, former running backs coach, he's gonna get better. As you said, the usage, the screen game, which has been non-existent, is going to be a huge factor. Some of the misdirection they use is going to help spring big runs. There's so much potential for the running backs here. I think I agree with you, because it seems like everywhere else there's either high end or depth, and Washington has both. Robinson has a chance to be the leading rusher in the division. Gibson is fantastic. Rodriguez, again, I said this on the early week pod, but he is the Isaiah Pacheco. Just give the ball to the angry guy and let him just run through people like they stole something from him. Like that is the Chris Rodriguez, Isaiah Pacheco model, which obviously worked very well for Pacheco last year in Kansas City under Bieniemy. So there are 3 deep there that could be very good if Rodriguez is good. And as you mentioned, whether it's Williams or Patterson who makes the team as the 4th, or either one of those guys on the practice squad as a depth piece to be able to boost up, they're NFL backs with NFL experience that within this scheme and system, I think could be effective. I struggle with 2 versus 3 because I do really like it depends on if Rashad Penny's healthy, right? If Penny stays healthy and Swift stays healthy, because he's had a couple of injury concerns as well, I think I tend to put the Eagles second because, I mean, Boston Scott has had some monster carries for them. Gainwell's been really good for them, and there's familiarity there. They do get to run behind that O-line, and, what's the parameters that we put on this? It's like you're set up for this season and where you're at. So there is, would I rather be a Philly running back or a New York running back? I'd probably rather be a Philly running back. But I'd also probably rather be Saquon Barkley. And if you go, who is the single best back in this division? It's obviously him. There is, to me, we're starting to get, and I can't believe we're saying this because this is so the cruel reality of running back in the NFL. We are getting to the point with Saquon where it's like, when does he start to slow down? We're only 5 years in, but like we saw it happen with Zeke. And once it happens, like it is a big freaking deal. He has missed some time, which could help him less beating. So. Although when you miss time with injury, typically that's not something that's going to help you. But ultimately, like what's the drop off between Saquon and Matt Breida? It's real big. Breida's fine. He's a real legitimate NFL running back, but it's not like these other teams in terms of the depth where you have a kind of a second starter. Like Penny's a starter. Swift is a starter. Gibson's a starter. Robinson's a starter. And so that would be my quarrel with 2 and 3. I agree with you that Dallas is 4th. Pollard's exciting, but also it's not like he's 22. He's 26. He's been around and he has had the limited carries like you mentioned, but he hasn't, like he's never been a lead back. And so the fact that they're having him be a lead back in a year where he's coming off a bad injury, I do have, even if we're saying he's going to be healthy, like there's being able to play and then there's being at your best. And I don't know that he's going to be at his best. So I think I agree with you pretty safely on 1 being Washington. Pretty safely on 4 being Dallas. I think the quibble is in the middle with whether you, and it's just a matter of health. If Philly stays healthy, they're second.
They're going to be
Saquon,
awesome.
If Saquon is healthy and Philly gets a little banged up, then I think you go second there. Because, I guess also, too, do you want to like quasi include Daniel Jones here?
Yeah, I mean,
as a runner?
I mean, but then if you're doing that, you got to include Jalen Hurts. And then Jalen Hurts,
I guess that really solidifies it for Philly then.
Totally breaks the scale, and I think, I just think, like, again, to me, like Rashard Penny is one of, like, when he is healthy, he might be the most explosive back in all of football. Like it's crazy how efficient he is on a per touch basis. The problem is he just hasn't stayed healthy. He just hasn't done it. Like he's had that, what was that, 2021 when he, like the last 5 games of the year, he rushed for over 150 yards, like 4 consecutive games. Like it was ridiculous. I'm probably being hyperbolic there, but it was something crazy efficient. He had over 5 yards a carry, but you only see that for little itsy bitsy time because he's always kind of nursing some type of injury. So if he's healthy, that rushing offense, that rushing attack there in Philly is going to be awesome. Swift, I think, again, talk about a guy who's underachieved a little bit in terms of rushing efficiency. So, not surprising to me that Detroit kind of decided to move on. I know he's a big name. I know he's an explosive runner. But I think the thing about him going to Philly is like he's rushing behind an offensive line that's super efficient, a running attack that allows for big running lanes, creates a ton of space because the quarterback's a threat to run because of the RPO stuff. So to me, he's a space player. And I just think that group, if they can stay healthy, I mean, and Gainwell's not a bad player. Like he's not a bad football player, and neither is Boston Scott. So I'd probably lean Philly. But again, the Rashad Penny thing, he has just historically been so banged up. I wouldn't count on him. So it's like
he's been in the league since 2018. He has less than 2,000 rushing yards for his career.
Right.
Which, and by the way, that stretch, I just looked it up, 2021, 4 of the last 5 games of that season, you weren't far off. He was over 130. He was 137. He had a 39-yarder dud against LA, but then he goes 135, 170, 190. So he did average over 150 in that four of 5 games.
Do you have his yards per carry there? It was insane. It was like 6 yards a carry, or whatever it was.
Yeah, but it was 8, 6, 3, 5, 7, 9, 6, 8, 8, 3.
I mean,
we'd have to do the math.
Look at that efficiency, though. And so again, in behind that O-line, like to me, he could be the breakout player of the NFL, right? He could, rush for 1,000 yards on like 10 carries, damn near. That's an exaggeration, but he just has not
all in the shadow of your own end zone, all 100-yard touchdowns.
Yeah, Bang, but he has not been healthy. So to me, it's like I'm going to bank on the Commanders. I guess I go Philly because the upside is tremendous with that group. I mean, it's through the roof. And I guess you go New York, but it's only Saquon there. It's only Saquon. Right. And that's the only reason you give them that opportunity. And I'm not very confident in Dallas at the moment, just because I feel like they don't have – I think Tony Pollard's an excellent football player, but I think he's better when he's not carrying the lion's share of touches, when he gets some of those game plan touches like we talked about last year. So for sure. I feel pretty good about that order, actually.
Okay. I agree with you. All right. Put it on the graphic. Hit print. We got it. Thanks for watching this clip of Take Command. First, why don't you like it? It lets other people know that it was good, and then they should watch it too. And Logan, we have a new exclusive home for full episodes.
We do. 1067 The Fans YouTube page. Go check it out and please subscribe.
Yeah. Do what Logan said.
Do it.
Very, very smart.